And welcome here again at Researcher's Desk, another Wednesday at 12 o'clock. My name is Romina Martin, and today I'm happy to invite Jon Warmington-Lundström to tell us more about the Right Livelihood Award. Welcome, Jon, and looking forward to hear from you. Maybe you can tell us also a little bit about your personal background in relation to this. And please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. So I'll start by saying thank you to Alistair for the invite to come and speak to you all today. This seems like a very great group of interdisciplinary researchers, so I'm grateful for the opportunity to speak to you today. My name is Jon Warmington-Lundström, as was said. I'm the Education Manager at Right Livelihood. And today I'll give you a bit of an introduction into Right Livelihood, who we are as an organization and as an award body. Education work for which I am partially responsible. So Right Livelihood, our mission is to honor and support courageous people offering solutions to global problems. And that's the mission that drives us forward in everything that we seek to achieve. We were established in 1980 by Jacob van Uxküll, and we're widely known as the Alternative Nobel Prize. It's a phrase that we have a bit of a love-hate relationship with, but is really a touch point that many people will recognize us by. And the history behind that is initially the idea was that we would like to set up a new award within the Nobel structure, and that did not work out, so we spun off and became our own thing and started Right Livelihood as an independent award. And so since 1980, we have given out 198 awards. So we have 198 laureates from 77 countries to date. And so we're very diverse in terms of the individuals that we give the award to, the organizations, and geographically very diverse as well. So let's look at a couple of the laureates then that we have given the award to from this year. As I say, 4 awards per year. So we have Joanne Carling from the Philippines. And Joanne is an excellent Indigenous and environmental rights defender. She works with Indigenous communities in the local level in the Philippines, in the regional level across Asia, but is also a global voice for Indigenous rights. And she specifically works quite heavily with extractivist industries and the negative impact that they have on Indigenous communities, where the wealth extraction that takes place because of those industries very, very rarely has any trickle-down effect to the Indigenous populations themselves. We also have Issa Amro, as well as his organization Youth Against Settlements. Issa is from Hebron, which is a city whose reputation precedes it. And he works a lot with youth movements, very non-violent resistance to the occupation that they face in that part of the West Bank. And lots of his is local initiatives. For example, he gives out cameras to youths to be able to document human rights violations. And just the presence of those cameras has helped to reduce the level of violence from settlers and the IDF in his community. We also have Annabella Lemos from Justiça Ambiental, which also, as JAR, means now. So it's Environmental Justice Now is the name of her organization. And she is Mozambican and works a lot with northern Mozambican communities, again around extractivism, this time with natural gas and the social problems that come with the natural gas extraction in northern Mozambique, a lot to do with increased levels of violence and incursions into the region, as well as obviously the environmental degradation that comes so heavily. And then the 4th laureate for this year was Forensic Architecture. So they're based at Goldsmiths University in the UK. And they've got very innovative techniques on how to use architectural tools and satellite mapping to have explore and investigate human rights abuses. So some of their campaigns include they were using architectural tools to look at the tower, Grenfell Tower fires that happened in London several years ago. They were a big part of the public litigation and the inquiry there, looking at how the fire spread and how regulations hadn't been properly enforced, and which caused such a high level of deaths in that case. But then they also look at issues like ecocide, looking at deforestation across the Amazon rainforest, where they can use their satellite images and their architectural tools to create these 3D models that are able to break down and look at the different actors and their actions having on environmental degradation. And so Right Livelihood starts with the award, but we also have several work processes. Once the laureates have won the award, we like to have a lifelong commitment to that laureate and support them in many different ways for the duration of the continuation of their work. So the first work process that we have is our honor work process. And so this is the one that goes out, receives the nominations for potential new laureates. Anybody can nominate laureates within our network. There is no minimum standard to which you have to be able to nominate. And so once all those nominations have been received, our research team will look at all of them, shortlist to be able to provide the jury with a selection. They also carry out extensive background research, always involving a research visit before the laureate wins the award, where they can really talk to the actors on the ground, speak to their networks, and really get a good sense of their actual impact, which can be very different in how it's presented in a report compared to what we observe on the ground. And then once a year, our jury meet and decide upon the four new laureates. And all of that process results in the award presentation. So the laureates are announced in October, and then we have an award presentation at Circus in Stockholm that happens every December. And is a real celebration where we bring laureates from past and present, lots of civil society actors, academics from across Sweden and around Europe to attend our award presentation and get to celebrate these four new courageous changemakers that are being awarded this year. Our next work process is support. So as I say, we do offer ongoing support for the laureates. And so they are the sort of advocacy and protection side of laureates. We have consultative status at the UN. So we have offices, our head office is in Stockholm, but we also have an office in Geneva, where my colleagues in the advocacy team work with the UN special rapporteurs to be able to promote the messages and the change-making solutions of our laureates into the policy circles that sit within the Geneva circle. We have consultative status at the UN, as I say. We made 5 statements at the 57th Human Rights Council. The 58th Human Rights Council was just started this week. But those 5 statements on behalf of our laureates include Mother Nature Cambodia, who is our laureate from 2 years ago. Unfortunately, 5 of which were sentenced in prison to lengthy sentences for their work in terms of trying to protect the environment. And they were imprisoned on trumped-up charges of crimes against the government and insulting the king, for example. So yeah, we made a statement on their behalf. We've also made statements on behalf of Vyasna, which is our Belarusian human rights, and many other laureates. One other success is the Mohammed Al-Qahtani, who was imprisoned in Saudi Arabia for 10 years. And after his detention was due to come to an end, he just disappeared. And so nobody knew his whereabouts. He had no contact with his family for close to 3 years. And so our advocacy team put a lot of pressure on UN mechanisms and other mechanisms to be able to secure his release, which I'm pleased to say happened just a few weeks ago. We also have a parliamentarian group here in Sweden. So we have cross-party parliamentarian support, and we can continue our advocacy work on the Swedish national level. We carry out solidarity visits. Here you can see in the top right of the slide. Here is in the high-vis jacket is Phyllis Omido, our Kenyan environmental defender, who is a laureate. Alongside her is Ale, who's heads up the advocacy and support team here at Right Livelihood. And then we also have Vladimir Slivak, who is a Russian nuclear anti-nuclear campaigner. So it's great to bring laureates with different perspectives from around the world that are fighting for the same cause and bring them in solidarity to prop up each other's work. And we love to do that as much as possible. And naturally, we have civil society networking. And unfortunately, we also have to put in emergency protocols. As I touched upon earlier, there are security risks that come to many of our laureates. And so we do have to provide them with the best amount of consultancy to help them to understand their security concerns and take mitigating strategies against it. We also have our inform work process, which is our communications work. And this is aimed at the general public to be able to disseminate as much as possible about the different laureates. So we have media outreach. We have quite a lot of press coverage when it comes to the award ceremony, and at also other times of the year, as I say, with the Al Qahtani campaign, we got a lot of press contact then around boosting his support and pushing for his release. We have social media channels on all the major platforms, which I would encourage you to follow. It gives us a really good perspective and keeps you up to speed with the work that we are doing. And then our communications team are also excellent at putting out visual stories and mini documentaries. So the support visit that I just mentioned with Phyllis Amido in Kenya, there's a short 10 to 12-minute documentary about those conversations and about her work and meeting the Kenyan Parliament on that occasion. We also have the one highlighted here, Climate Justice in Cambodia. So just before the arrest of Mother Nature Cambodia, somebody in our team went and recorded and made, again, about a 10 to 12-minute documentary about some of their work with the local community and the way that they engage with issues really at the grassroots level. So I'd encourage you to visit them, and they are very good educational materials in their own right. And then my work process is educate. And so we try to bridge the gap between activism and academia. And so we try and really promote and deep dive into the proven strategies and solutions that the laureates have been awarded for and try to amplify those and be able to replicate them across the world. And we do that through a couple of different ways. We have our Right Livelihood College, where we have 8 different campuses around the world, many of which have a connection to a laureate quite directly. So in Argentina, our coordinator at that campus is a laureate in his own right, Raul, and yeah, he's a biologist that works in Argentina and then also supports lots of other laureates around the network. In Chile, our college is quite closely linked with Manfred Max Neef and his ideas of human scale development. And in Nigeria, the Port Harcourt University collaborates with HOMEF, which is the organization of our laureate Nemo Bassi, on lots of food sovereignty, health issues, environmental issues within Nigeria. We also have a long-term cooperation with the Global Campus of Human Rights, and that focuses on the rights of children and future generations. And our current focus of that cooperation is on climate justice, on AI and its effects on ongoing, and then also on the deprivation of liberty in relation to children. Outside of our direct partnerships, we also do as much as we can to promote laureate educational initiatives. So many laureates work on trying to educate their local communities and national level communities through their own initiatives, and so we try to lift those voices as much as possible. We create our own internally produced materials, myself and my colleague Samar, and they can be hosted on our Right Livelihood College blog or also on our own website at rightlivelihood.org. And then finally, we have a climate justice fellowship. So we've just come into the end of our third cohort, our third and final cohort of that. And that took 15 climate justice campaigners, initially from the European region. Then we moved to the Africa region. And we've finally done a cohort in the Asia region where we take 15 up and coming environmental defenders and teach them the tools of nonviolent resistance through our laureate Gene Sharp and the Albert Einstein Institute. And they really workshop different ways that social movements can be built and nonviolent resistance to extractive industries and other environmentally degrading industries. So if we look at some individual laureates then and some of the work that we do. Tony Ronaldo is a Australian agronomist. He went to Niger to work with the idea of reforesting. And he discovered, whilst on a drive through the country, he stopped at the side of the road, looked down at the ground and saw some sprouts coming from the ground. And he realized that what had always been described as bushes was actually trees trying to blossom. And so there was this huge network of what he called an underground forest, these root networks that had existed for a time. But the practice of the farmers was to cut them back down in order to plant their new seeds, because they understood them as being bushes and not this forest that would allow for this transformation of the desert around them. And so he's done a lot of great work to push the farmer managed natural regeneration agenda. And he won the award several years ago. And we can support him through different ways. Right Livelihood College, that is based in Bonn in Germany, has a PhD dedicated to FMNR, which allows Irene, the PhD candidate that sits in Bonn, to work closely with Tony and to be able to do academic research on the initiatives that he has started. He is loved by his local community. The movement has grown from Niger through into East Africa, but it's very evidential and anecdotal in many of the cases that it is how it's spread. So the importance of rooting that with academia to be able to provide, real quantitative results helps to elevate what has been a community local grassroots initiative onto the policy level. And that PhD is really supporting Tony in that way. We also have, through our partner at the University of Kassel, they have a teacher training department, and they have developed materials on teaching about the Sustainable Development Goals and FMNR specifically, and how to build that into a primary school and high school curriculum. And they've used Tony as a real case example for that. And that project won the German UNESCO Education Prize last year, which was very proud to say. And then something that I really love is a workbook for children by children that was developed by that with a little bit of support from Tony, and to really get children thinking about what is the value of trees from that very early age and how vital they are to the environment around us. As I say about laureate educational initiatives, World Vision, which is an organization that Tony works very closely with, has just launched a MOOC on farmer managed natural regeneration that is aimed at policymakers, academics, some more of a higher level European environment compared to the grassroots African communities that he works with directly, but to teach them on the benefits of farmer managed natural regeneration so that the same approach, which still has very much relevancy to the European context as it does in Africa. And then an example of how the Right Livelihood Award can have an amplifying and exponential impact is that after Tony won the award, there was a documentary filmmaker and then also somebody who wanted to write a book about Tony. They became inspired by his work, having heard about him after winning the award. And so now they have created those two resources, which broaden the audience beyond our own audience. And as I say, exponentially then increase Tony's outreach through those chain reaction of impact events. Another laureate, Afiego, These are a Ugandan organization that works with energy sovereignty. So they try to provide clean and reliable energy for the development of rural communities in Uganda. They also fight against pipelines of oil that is currently planned to channel all the way through from Uganda all the way out to the east coast, somewhere in the Kenya and Tanzania ports. And an example of how we've worked with them, late last year, there was the DevRes conference at Lund University, hosted by Luxus, which is our Right Livelihood campus based in Lund. And yeah, Afiego Diana here on the right attended and spoke at the DevRes conference as a keynote speaker. So that was a great way for her to be able to speak to researchers as I'm speaking to you today about her lasting impact in her change. And then we also support them with an intern from the Global Campus of Human Rights. As I say, we have a cooperation with them. And so a student carried out their master's thesis on the impact on future generations of energy issues in rural Uganda. And so then she will be able to continue her work with an internship that she will do in this summer. And she will go join Afiego, be able to boost their capacity a little bit, but by providing them with some additional research needs. And then we also like to support laureates as much as possible on their own learning journey. As you know, the world is ever changing and nobody is perfect. So our laureates are always trying to improve themselves and keep up with the environment around them. So Fiego reached out and they would like to bolster their own research capacity by taking part in some research skills workshops to make sure that they're up to speed with the most relevant research techniques. So that's a way that we can directly to support the education of the laureates themselves, not just disseminating their work, but making sure it's a two-way street. So what can Right Livelihood offer you? You're all interdisciplinary researchers across Sweden. And so what we can offer is access to change makers with proven success. For people that have won the award, they've already done fantastic work. If you are interested in building them into your curriculum, to look at resources, to show and have discussion topics, that's the kind of things that we're more than happy to facilitate. We can offer you connections to civil society networks. As I say, many of our laureates work in difficult circumstances and with rural communities. So if you have researchers that are struggling to make that point of impact or to build up trust, then we may be able to assist you in that by, vouching a little bit through the laureates and connecting you with the grassroots movements that they work with. We can also provide you on advice. I've touched upon some existing materials that work in the education space, and we can advise you further on what already exists and what can be developed further. And then what can you offer laureates? Because of course, we're all about propping up the laureates. So the dissemination of their strategies and best practice, anytime you want to reference their work in anything that you're doing, whether or not that be an academic paper or a lecture that you were providing, then we'd love to see it at all possibilities. If you have independent academic research, if you have PhD candidates, if you have a research project that you have received funding for, our laureates are always looking for ways that independent research can validate their approach so that it turns it from that anecdotal perspective within their communities up into the policy level where they need to see numbers before it becomes financed further. Capacity building, as I say, maybe through internships, through research support. And sometimes our laureates also are looking for repositories of information. So Joanne Carling, who won the award this year, she's building up a database of human rights violations against Indigenous communities, and she would like for that to sit within an academic institution. So we do have those ad hoc ways that, yeah, people really like to build a library around their work or really cement themselves within the academic community. So that's it from me. Thank you very much for your time. My name's Jon Warmington-Lundström. My email address is here. Please reach out at any time. I'm open to all suggestions of potential collaborations back and forth. So please do see this as an opportunity to continue a conversation. Please keep us in mind for yourself, for any research proposals that your colleagues might have. Yeah. Let's continue conversating.
Great. Many thanks, Jon, for your time and presentation today. This seems to be like in the very heart of Researchers Desk, bridging academia and activism. So thanks again for your presentation.